last step when knitting a hat in the round is to close the top of the hat with a needle and weave in your ends. Here's how to do it step by step. Leaving a long tail, cut the yarn and thread it through a tapestry needle. We'll thread the tail through all the stitches to gather the top of the hat. If your stitches are on a circular rather than double pointed needles, I find it helps to split the stitches first, moving roughly half to each tip with the yarn tail hanging from the back tip. Hold both tips together in your left hand and gently pull the yarn tail to tighten up. You can thread your needle through a stitch at a time or a bunch together. I'll show you both options. Put your tapestry needle into each stitch on the front tip from right to left, moving it on to the tapestry needle. Once the front tip is empty, gently pull the tapestry needle through all the stitches. Now turn your knitting and starting from the back of the circular tip, thread your needle through all the stitches at once. Then remove your circular needle tip and pull the yarn gently, but leave the opening loose. I like to go through all the stitches a second time to make the top of the hat really secure. So working around from left to right, put your needle through every stitch again. You can still make out each stitch because you left the opening loose. Once you get to the end, pull tightly and voila! The top of your hat is done. Finally, we need to weave in the yarn ends. There's lots of ways to do this, but here's how I do it. First, I bring my yarn tail through to work on the inside of the hat. Then I bring the needle through a couple of nearby purl bumps. After that, I just go through and around stitches in different directions. The stitches look like little U and N letters, or smiles and frowns if you prefer. So I mix between going under these shapes and following the U or N stitch around with my needle. I don't go through a load of stitches in a row because I find it adds thickness or looks obvious. So I just pick a couple of stitches here and there at random, working both upwards and downwards. Once I've done several of these and worked a bit away from the centre, that's plenty. I carefully cut the yarn right at the hat and I'm done. To weave in the cast-on yarn tail, I prefer to work on the right side. With a long tail cast on, there's a nice edge along the bottom. So first I bring the needle through the loop at the very bottom to the left. This joins things up nicely so you can barely tell where the start of the round is. Then I bring the needle through a knit stitch column, so I'm in a purl column. Knit stitches look much more obvious in rib, so it's easier to hide your weaving in the purl columns. There's no right or wrong here. The main thing is to cover a bit of ground, working through several stitches in different directions. Similar to the top of the hat, I mix between going up and down through the U and N shapes or following them around. After doing a few stitches in the same column, I move on through the next knit column. I follow a knit stitch around by looping up, behind and around in an N shape. Then I work into a few more stitches in the next purl column. Then I pass the needle under another knit stitch, but this time loop back by going under the stitch above. So now I'm working backwards towards the starting point, just a little higher up. I go through a few more stitches in random directions and that's it. Carefully cut the yarn close and the hat is finally finished. Hooray! I hope you found this video helpful. Got any questions? Just comment below. Thanks for watching.